Hi, I'm Sophie Marie Odom, Lifestyle Magazine's editor.
And I'm Samantha Wreng, broadcaster and disability rights campaigner. And a huge welcome to the Motability Lifestyle Pod. In this podcast, we invite our friends from the disability community into the studio for a conversation about how we can all live our best life, particularly when navigating a disabling world.
Before we get started on this next episode, just a reminder that if you're listening to us in your car, you can also watch the full episode on YouTube, complete with captions and British Sign Language. Also, make sure to click subscribe or follow wherever you're listening so you're the first to know when each new episode lands. In today's episode, we're joined by Isaac Harvey MBE. Isaac is a disability advocate, mentor, and influential presence on LinkedIn, president of the skating group Wheels and Wheelchairs, filmmaker and co-founder of the videography company Seated Perspectives, and he's done a bit of modelling too. The list just goes on.
I'm feeling a bit intimidated right now.
It's a long list, isn't it?
It's a long list. We haven't got all day, Isaac. Blimey neck.
Sam, hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well. I'm feeling the summer vibes at the moment. Are you appreciating the nautical? Would you call it nautical vibe?
I would call
I went very frilly. I mean, it is technically raining cats and dogs outside, but just illusion.
It's
creating that illusion.
Yes.
It's sunny somewhere.
It's sunny somewhere. Exactly.
Maybe not where we are.
Exactly. What have you been up to?
Gosh, what have I been up to? So I know that I've spoken to you about finally getting a date in the diary for an operation. So not necessarily a reason to be happy on the surface, but I think a lot of the listeners and viewers can absolutely resonate with the fact that when you have been on a waiting list or when you've been trying to organise the right consultant, the right aftercare that can be quite, long-winded to say the least, when you finally get that letter to go, you've got a date, it's a mixed bag of trepidation, but also I feel like the end is nigh, and I now feel like I can relax, take time to heal, and then, kind of compete with Isaac in his plethora of accomplishments. So yeah, a little bit of a bittersweet moment for me, but I am looking forward to eating a lot of ice cream, to be quite honest with you.
Catching up on a few series.
Yeah, catching up on our podcast, obviously, because we love listening to our own voices. Just taking that downtime and just chilling, and I think listening to my body, which sometimes can be quite difficult, particularly when you're constantly on the move, or you're constantly working, or doing whatever you're doing, living life. So yeah, it's nature's way of going, slow down.
Yes, exactly. Well, wishing you well, Sam.
Thank you so much.
Hope all goes well.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's been a busy time on Lifestyle. We've got the new issue out, if you can see it on
strategically positioned. Yeah, it's like we thought about this,
So yes, if you haven't read the latest issue, it's out now. Also, just been busy. I had a lunch with Edward Enninful, the previous editor-in-chief of Vogue.
I have been stalking you, Miss Naomi Campbell as well.
Yes.
I can't believe I was like, what? Wait, hang on. Hang on a minute, where was my invitation? What is our Soph doing next to Miss Campbell?
Well, we're besties now. She may not know it yet, but
When you knock outside her door and go, hiya, do you remember me? Sophie!
But yeah, we had a lunch with Edward.
Lovely.
So yeah, that was really good. It was more of him just talking about his rise to becoming editor-in-chief of Vogue, and just how he's just broken down so many barriers when it comes to diversity and inclusion, because when you compare Vogue to what it is now to what it was before, it's so much more accessible. There's so many more people that can look at the magazine and see themselves in the magazine.
And enjoy fashion.
Exactly. And I don't know if many people know this, but Edward is disabled himself.
Okay.
And he always said that his mum told him, which will stick with me, if you see it, you can be it. And it's just about how important representation is.
Yeah, he does a lot of work with Sinead Burke, obviously from Tilting the Lens. Yes. So I've met Sinead on quite a few occasions now, but obviously very well known for those iconic front page Vogue representation with a whole host of, disability, neurodivergent and disabled kind of models. I actually collected all of them.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I got them in my
That's
office.
really cool.
It took me forever to get all of them, going around to all the different, Marks and Spencers and going, where's the Vogue magazines?
Yeah. So our first reasons to be cheerful today is Lifestyle has won another award.
Another one?
Another one. We won the BSME, British Society of Magazine Editors Award for Diversity and Inclusion.
Amazing. That's really good.
Thank you. And I think it just goes to show and champions all the great work that the team.
Yeah.
There's a big team behind all of this. So yeah, well done to the team.
Isn't it funny? Like a lot of people don't really like awards, and I get why a lot of people don't like awards. But I think we need it sometimes. Like, we need a bit of validation sometimes. I think it's lovely. Yeah. And like you said, it recognises not just one single person. Yes. It recognises that collective and that group coming together. So well done. Congrats.
Thank you. And we were up against some big names such as Vogue and BBC Food. So...
Hey!
Yes.
Eat that, Vogue. In your face. We love you, Vogue. Please get me on the front cover.
Second reason to be cheerful is Mac has launched a BSL virtual service. So,
hang on. Back up a minute there.
Yes, I know.
Mac the makeup brand. Oh, okay, yeah.
Mac Cosmetics has launched a British Sign Language virtual makeup service which will allow consumers from the deaf community to pre-book a free 45-minute...
What doesn't happen in this life?
Free 45-minute one-to-one virtual session with a Mac artist of their choice. And they'll be joined by an interpreter for a personalised tutorial. And then later in the year... The service will also extend to the brand's flagship store on London's Carnaby Street, and that will allow customers the option to pre-book an in-person makeup service with an interpreter joining virtually.
So is this unlimited amount, or is there like a small amount? Do we know? Like, is there only like a certain amount or
of people that can?
Yeah.
Oh, didn't say so.
Oh, maybe they haven't thought about that, have they? A great initiative. I do a lot on disability and consumers and how we can make that customer experience a lot better. And I think for anybody, it's just been talking with Phillida about facial awareness week and how these spaces can be really intimidated for a lot of people who are disabled and neurodivergent because they are, they're not always represented in these spaces. And the staff may not know how to interact. So that's wonderful.
Yes.
Hear. Well done, Matt.
This news follows the launch of Holland & Barrett's new BSL resource for women experiencing menopause. I'm not sure if you've heard of this, because a study from the University of Wolverhampton found that 60% of deaf women do not have sufficient access to menopause health information in BSL.
That's
so Holland & Barrett are trying to
really
meet that need.
Yeah.
So hopefully this is just the beginning of lots of things.
And it needs, it's women's sexual health. I'm working with the University of Kiel on a research project about, accessing cervical screening, because it can just be so many barriers there. So well done.
Yes.
Women in particular deserve this. Yeah. Champion, let's burn my bra. Sorry, I'm not going to burn my bra, I promise. You don't need to turn off your screens.
Reason to be cheerful. The third reason to be cheerful for today is I've got some awareness dates for your diary.
Oh, wait a minute. Go on then.
June the 17th to the 23rd is Learning Disability Week. And this year's theme is Do You See Me? Which is all about being seen, heard and valued.
Love.
For more information, visit mencap.org.uk/Learning Disability Week. And it's also Deaf Blind Awareness Week, June the 24th to the 30th. And throughout the week, deafblind.org.uk will celebrate people living with deaf blindness and will be sharing their stories, achievements and personal successes. They want to show that people living with sight and hearing loss often have the same interests, emotions and ambitions as people who are not deaf-blind. So for more information, visit deafblind.org.uk.
Yeah, and you can actually download quite easily a PDF disability calendar, I suppose. Literally type into any search engine disability calendar 2024 and it will give you a PDF downloadable version, and it will have all the amazing celebrations, awareness days. Just really great to circulate if you're in an office space as well, or at home. Have it up at home in your office.
I agree.
So yeah, definitely go and do that, and encourage more people to do that.
So, should we get into today's guest?
Oh, I think we should. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Today, we are delighted to be joined by Isaac Harvey MBE. Isaac has a long list of credentials. He's a disability advocate, content creator, president at Wheels and Wheelchairs, plus so much more. Welcome to the podcast, Isaac.
Hello.
Buongiorno. I don't know where that came from, but we're going a little bit Italiano today. There we go. I always get very giddy when I'm around Isaac. We have a lot of fun together, don't we?
Just a bit.
Yes, just a bit. Last time I saw you, Isaac, we were at the Rights on Flights campaign at Parliament. That was a couple of months back. That was amazing. So if no one has heard of that, which you should do, obviously spearheaded by Sophie Morgan and a whole host of amazing disabled activists, and essentially to make flying as a disabled person much more accessible. So we were at Parliament. How have you been then? How have you been? What have you been up to lately? Anything that we should know about?
Gosh, where do I begin? It's been very busy recently. A lot with the Wheels and Wheelchairs and the skating that we do around London, and we're preparing to do a huge challenge at the beginning of the Paralympics, where we're going to be skating from Brighton to Paris, which is
That's amazing. We want to hear more about that. Absolutely. I always feel quite intimidated around you, Isaac.
Got a very long list of credentials. So let's start from the beginning, Isaac. So how did you become a disability advocate? I mean, was there a particular moment or experience that sort of lit the fire in your belly, so to speak, that just made you want to start like campaigning and speaking on behalf of the disability community?
Yeah, I mean, there was a moment, I guess it was when I joined LinkedIn in 2021. But previously to that, so if going a bit of the backstory, so when I left school, I fell in love with media and content creation, and that's kind of what I wanted to do because I've always had a creative mind, and I just knew from the get-go I didn't want to do the 9 to 5. I wanted to do my own thing, and that was by creating video content and sharing the crazy things that I get up to by vlogging the journeys and things. So that was kind of like the focus. And obviously throughout those videos, I was showcasing what I can do with a disability, but I never really spoke about disability in those videos. It was only, I just wanted to have fun basically, and just filming what I'd get up to. And friends and family kept saying to me, oh, you should really talk about disability. You could change people's perspectives on things and allow others in the community to know more about disability. And I thought, why do I have to do that for? It didn't really make any sense to me. I was like, I just want to have fun. I don't want to talk about disability. But it was only until I was given an opportunity to do a public speaking engagement about the obstacles that I face, such as lifts not working and having to plan ahead.
No, I mean, you are absolutely a trailblazer. You started off doing what you do because you love it, and then you found your feet in the community and understood the power of positive representation. But I don't know about you. I think a lot of disabled people can relate to growing up. You were either in that narrative of triumph over adversity, being that inspiration, or kind of being that very poor tragedy of a disabled person. And I think it's a really fine line, isn't it? And it can be really quite a tricky line to carry on when you are in the public eye or when you are a trailblazer like yourself. How do you manage that? Are you conscious of that, or not perpetuating these harmful stereotypes? If someone says, "Oh, Isaac, you're so inspirational," do you challenge that, or do you just go, "Yeah, I am, I am"? How do you? Because you have got such a presence, particularly online. I'm sure many disabled people, myself included, look up to you and admire you. But are you fearful, or are you conscious of not perpetuating these harmful stereotypes?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point because as you say, there's no gray area. It's like we're really inspirational, or yeah, look at that disabled person, they can't do much. I wish people would see it more from a middle ground. Because for me, and this has come over time, but I guess it depends on the intention. I guess when people call me inspirational just for getting on the bus, that's different to skydiving, you know. There's a big difference. But I also, I don't really challenge it, only because I know people are well intended, for the most part. So I do kind of use it as a bit of an education moment, to really share what I can do, but also being realistic and say, yeah, I'm actually in a lot of pain right now, or this took me a while to do. I think just bringing that realism to the table really helps both allies, but also those within the disability community. As you said, you know, there's a lot of people who write in the comments and see the things that I do, and they say, "Oh, I didn't realize I could do that with my disability." So I see it from both angles, and I know most people are well intended. So I kind of just, I'm just, yeah, very kind about it.
Yeah, you're very real because you post a lot about mental
Yes,
health and you talk about, when you're not having good days. And I really commend you for that. I think that is something that we need to always kind of keep a balance with. Of course, respect your own
of course.
boundaries. Don't share everything with the
Yeah.
world. But I think you do that really, really well. I love that about you. I'm bigging you up too much now, right? I need to say something nasty, but no, I'm joking.
No, keep feeding my ego, please.
But through that, you've garnered so much support and like following from LinkedIn. Because I know you've got a massive LinkedIn presence, and it is just through you just being authentic and real and just sharing your experiences, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think that I've grown so much in such a short period of time on LinkedIn. And that's just by sharing my story, really. But for me, it's a bit of a weird feeling because growing up, and looking at other influencers, that was what I wanted to be, the person with 1 million followers and loads of subscribers and, be this top person. But then when it didn't really materialize at the time that I wanted it, I really lost a lot of motivation because with YouTube, I wasn't really growing any subscribers or any sort of following. And it got to a point where I used to I enjoyed making videos, but then I let the views and engagement get to me. And I was like, okay, what's the point doing this? So then that's when I moved to doing more freelance with my content, and then becoming, within this advocacy space and then getting the followers. It feels like a bit of a full circle moment.
So tell us about wheels and wheelchairs. So you said that you just casually
I know,
dropped
drop
it
that in.
that you're going
that little
Brighton.
bombshell there,
Yeah. To Paris. That's massive. Tell us about
Well,
that.
that's what I was doing, so that's that's why I mentioned it. So a bit of backstory. Wheels and Wheelchairs was a group that started in 2012 after a French group who were doing similar activities in Paris challenged themselves to skate from Paris to London for the Paralympic Games. And that's roller skaters pushing wheelchair users. When they had arrived here, the skaters they saw the wheelchair users being pushed by skaters and were like, oh, wow, this is such a great concept. We should start something here. And that's when Wheels and Wheelchairs was born. And then I knew about the group at the end of 2018. Really enjoyed it in 2019. Did Paris Marathon. I've done Istanbul Marathon and all these different skating activities. But I really got involved in that year that they saw my involvement and how much I really liked it and the potential the group could really bring to the world, as well as showcasing what can be done even though you have a disability, that they asked me if I'd like to become the president of the organization.
How can people get involved then if they want to learn more about wheels and wheelchairs?
Yeah, so we're all social platforms, mainly on our Facebook page, to let us know if you would like to come, and then we'll have a wheelchair ready for you to skate with us in Battersea Park.
And tell us about all the other amazing things you're involved in at the moment.
Oh gosh, that's a long list. I guess another thing that I'm involved in that I never thought I'd ever see myself doing would be the fashion space, and rocking it for adaptive clothing. It's funny being in that space as well because I was, and I admit this, I've said it publicly many times, but I was someone who mocked the fashion industry. All I saw on the catwalk was really ridiculous clothing. But it was only until I discovered, and thanks to LinkedIn, that I discovered about adaptive clothing. I'd never heard of that term before. And yes, I am disabled, but I didn't know about adaptive clothing because my mum just made clothes fit me, and that's all I knew about clothing. So to not learn about how different clothing, how there's not much variety for people with different sizes, shapes, disabilities, as well as the different adaptations such as magnetic buttons and straps being in the front rather than the back, really opened my eyes to like a whole new world. And then being able to model that clothing and then showcase more representation in the media, I thought was a real great win. But it's definitely a space which has a lot of drama. No, it's a very interesting space to be in, and I'm glad we're bringing more representation, such as those models being on the front of Vogue, and I was featured in one of the articles. So yeah, really cool.
Smashing it. Obviously, you've got Dewey Fashion and then Victoria Jenkins, some of the big players on the scene. But, Isaac, I've been thinking a lot about how I've grown in terms of, my disability pride and also accepting help. So I recently moved out of London back to Lancashire, which has been interesting. It's been the right choice. But it also means that my mother is about 5 minutes away from me. Well, my mother was one of the reasons why I actually tried as a young 20-something to get out of my hometown, even though I love her dearly. But I've come to the realisation that, asking for help or receiving help when you have a disability plays a huge part in our success. What would you say to anyone out there who, would love to emulate you, has got a lot of, respect for you, wants to do a lot of the things, but who is maybe a little bit too hesitant to maybe accept that help or reach out for that help, whether that's a caregiver, whether that's a PA, whether that's family, friends, because it can be such a journey for a lot of disabled people. For a very, very long time, I refused to be in a power wheelchair because I felt that made me be, or to the outside world, look more disabled. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, give me as much technology, as many wheelchairs. I just want to get on with my life. Have you got any tips or advice for maybe our younger listeners and viewers who are struggling with that?
Yeah, I mean, even now I find it quite difficult to ask for help sometimes, because I feel like I'm being a bit of a nuisance by asking for help. But actually, first of all, it's a barrier that we're putting up because for the most part, people are willing to help and are there to support us in living our daily lives. And it's also realizing that if it wasn't for the help, I wouldn't be skydiving or tall ship sailing or holding the Olympic torch or being able to dress into this adaptive clothing. It's because of help that gets me to do all of these things. And without it, I just probably would be lying here doing nothing with my life. So it's, the help is in that way physically, but also the support that I've had from my family as well have been, really pushing me to be the best version of myself and never really discouraged me from doing things. I say to Rom, oh, I'm going to do a skydive. It's like, okay, if you want to do that, then go for it, Most moms would be terrified, but my mom's like, yeah, if you want to, go for it.
Isn't it nice? I found a bit of peace when it comes to, receiving that help. Like now when my mum pops over, I don't feel like she's treading on my toes. I don't feel like she's there. I don't feel like she's there because she doesn't think I'm capable of doing the laundry. I'm like, Mum, before I was like, Mum, get out my house, get out my space. I can do my own laundry. And now I'm like, happy days. Mum, if you wanna mop my floors, if you wanna do my laundry, if you want to make me a cup of tea, have at it. It's a nice place
Yes.
to be, isn't it? I think that. Do you not think that comes with age?
Yeah, it
as
does.
well.
You're just much more comfortable in your skin.
Yeah.
You just know that it's well intended. Like
It
we were
is
saying
well
earlier.
intended.
Yeah.
But I think Isaac made a point. We internalize that. We internalize the maybe shame or the feeling that we're a burden. And I think one of the biggest advices I can give to any disabled person is, first of all, you're not. But also, when you start to allow people to be kind and be there for you, you become the best version of yourself, ultimately.
I love that. So, on to getting an MBE,
For goodness sake,
Isaac.
will you just, I mean...
Adding to the
Women
list.
act.
Tell us about that. How was that?
Oh gosh, it's still sinking in now, really, because over time, and I guess it goes into like accepting disability and what I'm doing. But I don't really do what I do for awards or recognition. I feel like I've got to a point now where it's like I'm just doing it because it's the right thing to do. So when I got that email to say that I've been put on a New Year's King's Honors list, I was like, okay. Well, firstly, I had to find out if it was a spam email or not, because you never know. I'll be honest. I was like,
That's what I would be thinking.
That is true. Check the
That's
sender
it, yeah.
details, yeah.
That's hilarious.
And then you kind of have an option if you want to accept it or not. So like for me personally, it's like, it is what it is, but to be able to accept it and showcase what people with disabilities can achieve, it's kind of seeing it from the bigger picture, of if you put your mind to it, no matter the obstacles that you may face, you can still achieve. So I ended up accepting it. Then I wasn't able to tell anyone about it for a whole month because it had to be announced first before you could publicly say. I'll be honest, I did tell my mum. Cause,
Yeah, that's standard though.
Because I know mum wouldn't say anything, and she didn't.
My mum would.
Bringing all the aunties and the uncles.
But yeah, it was presented by King Charles as well, which it's a different person every week, and I was lucky enough to get lucky to have King Charles, and I had a 2-minute conversation with him.
What's he like? Come on, give us the gossip.
And what did you talk about?
Okay, I might as well tell you this funny story. So, so I was there at Buckingham Palace, which is where we were getting it. There was 90 people receiving the different awards. So there was knighthoods, OBEs, MBEs. So it was like the whole lot. People were getting different awards. And for me, meeting someone new is just fine. Like I don't get like starstruck or anything like that. So I was just all prepared for it. And then they did it in 2 halves. So I was the second half of people who were going in to get the awards. And basically there was a protocol that you had to follow. And they were basically saying, when you get in, you have to go forward, you face the king, then you have to bow your head, then you have to go up to him, then you have to address him as Your Majesty, then you have to call him Sir. I was like, oh my gosh, I've only got a few minutes to practice this. And there's only one take, so I can't mess this up. So anyway, all of this was going in my head because I was fine before they told me all of that. So anyway, I went in, I bowed my head, and then I went up and I was about to say Your Majesty, but how he gives out the awards, he's on this pedestal. And then you talk to him on this pedestal. But as I'm going forward, he's come off the pedestal because to come on my level and then to put the award on me. And then he stayed down as well. So that kind of threw me off as well. But yeah, we started talking about, actually, the first thing he said to me was, I'm sorry I've had to make you wait for so long. I wasn't expecting the king to apologize to me. So I was like, okay. And then we talk about accessibility and advocacy and my disability work. But I am one of the many few who could say that the king came down to my level.
Amazing.
I love that.
Well, is it true to say that you're a little bit of a daredevil? skydiving, sailing, skiing. Skiing?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't think of anything worse. Cold. What else is up your sleeve? What's on your? Can we call it a bucket list? Do you plan these things, or do you just take them and seize them as the opportunity arises?
To be honest, it's most of my life's just going with the flow, really. I mean, most of what we've spoken about were not on the bucket list, and they just came up through as opportunities. So yeah, I just kind of seize the moment when they come. But someone actually messaged me only recently about surfing, which is something I've not done before, which would be really cool.
So, interestingly, I went to Jersey, so I stayed in a fully accessible hotel, Maison de Landes, I think it's pronounced, and they do inclusive surfing.
Oh, okay, nice.
So yeah, that might be something for you. I'll WhatsApp you the details.
Isaac, surfing. So yes, anything else that you're thinking you're going to try new, or that you've been recommended to try?
Yeah, I mean, it was meant to happen, but because of the right harnessing, it didn't happen. But I may do wing walking one day.
Oh, petrifying.
Yeah, just a bit.
Daredevil.
Yeah, but I look forward to it.
Just go and have a cup of tea. Calm down.
I just wanted to ask, what is your motivation on the days that you just don't feel like you want to do anything, or who is your motivation?
It might sound a bit funny, but actually it's my disabilities, my motivation actually, because, growing up, having to overcome so many obstacles in my life, I've just kind of just got on and pushed through, because there are times, and actually it was through my mental health journey, there were days where I was just like, oh gosh, can't bother to go out and do things. But because of the amount that I've had to push myself because of my disability, I did still get up in the morning and still go out, and I would still enjoy the times that I would be out. But yeah, it's thanks to my disability, and through my mental health journey and coming to terms with that, then allowed me to have more of a realization that my disability has always been that thing that's got me out of bed. Because it was, I would be blinded by all of the things that I was achieving. Some of the things that I mentioned, internally, I just wasn't happy with what I was doing, even though I was doing all of these amazing things, and the pictures showed me smiling, but actually behind the scenes, it was just a totally different story. And it took me a while to really come to terms with my mental health and actually take a step back and learn about mental health and mindset and well-being and meditation and just being there for self-care. So, it's been a journey, and still on that journey, but have a lot more internal peace and happiness, which is mixing with the disability. I feel a lot more energized and ready to crack on.
I love that.
And I love your honesty. I think that will really help a lot of people who are tuning in.
For sure.
To kind of, to not feel so alone, because I think a lot of people will really resonate with that. I resonate with that. Absolutely. So thank you, Isaac. It's been an absolute joy. And maybe you can push me out of my comfort zone, and maybe you can get, strap me to a plane.
A wing.
Wing.
Isaac, thank you very much for your time today. So Isaac was great. I feel so inspired. Like, there's so many new things I want to try now.
I mean, I'm petrified because I just said that he can put me on top of a plane. So what have I just committed myself
Yeah,
to?
exactly.
That's it now, isn't it?
Exactly, that's it. You're going on a plane.
Oh, no. You and your big mouth, Samantha.
Hi, Matt.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. How are you guys?
We're good, thank you.
Right, is it time for Car Chat with Matt?
Big vocals.
Powerful.
that was strong.
That was, wasn't it?
It was good. Woke me up. I enjoyed it.
Good.
Well, we got
energized me. Yeah. So today we're talking a bit about what's next for electric cars. So we've seen a lot of questions recently about availability of electric cars. There's a lot more electric cars on the scheme. Some people are excited about that. Some are slightly concerned or anxious about it. So I just kind of wanted to explain a little bit about why that's happening and where things are headed, and hopefully talk a bit about what sort of technologies we can expect moving forward that might make the electric car experience a little bit better. So first of all, people are seeing increasingly that more electric models are available on the Motability scheme. Sometimes there are electric versions of cars available, but not the petrol or diesel versions of that same car available. So first of all, the first thing to acknowledge there is that's not to do with Motability, that's the car industry as a whole. So to explain that quickly without getting into the boring nitty gritty, there is something called the Zero Emissions Vehicle Mandate, the ZEV mandate coming in. And that means this year, the government has said car manufacturers need to sell at least 22% of their cars need to be electric. So 22% of the cars they sell need to be electric this year. So that's given them a real kind of push, and they're going to get fined quite heavily if they don't do that. So that's why we're seeing more electric cars being pushed. So given that electric cars are likely here to stay, they're not going anywhere, they're here for the long term, at least that's the plan currently. Where is that technology headed? Is anything improving? Is anything changing? Well, the current focus is all about energy density in batteries. That's where the real kind of advancements are.
Longer longevity.
It's pretty much that, yeah. So what they're looking at is increasing the amount of energy a battery can hold without increasing its size.
Okay.
So there's a couple of ways they're doing that. One of them is looking at different battery chemistries. So effectively what materials go into the battery. And there's a couple of things they're looking to achieve by doing that. One of them is using fewer of those scarce and valuable metals that go into a battery. So that helps bring the costs down, if nothing else. And the other is increasing range. So you can already see there's advancements in range. Some of that has been through software development, some of that has been through aerodynamic advancements, some of that's been through battery advancements. But we're already seeing cars on the scheme, like the new Renault Scenic, for example, on paper does 379 miles, I want to say, but don't quote me on that. But that means, 300 miles in the real world is entirely realistic. Now, 300 miles is 5 hours of driving. I think most people are going to want to take a break after that. So we're already seeing improving ranges anyway. But some of the technologies that are in the works could increase that quite substantially. So the main one is solid state batteries. That's the big one that people are working on. Now, it's not that far away, this technology, or it's not, at least if you believe the hype from the car manufacturers who all say, oh, we're on the cusp, this is right around the corner, don't you worry. But they're all sort of saying within 10 years these are going to be mass produced and available in cars. So Toyota, for example, who believe they will be producing one within the next, I think they said by 2030 they'll have this in cars, so that's 6 years. Again, take that with a pinch of salt. But their solid-state battery, they believe, will have a range of around 600 miles, which is pretty far. But not only is it the long range that's impressive, it's they'll be able to charge faster. So they reckon that's 600, I think it's about 621 miles they quoted. They reckon that would also charge within 10 minutes. So you've got longer range, faster charging times, which is good. The other thing, which is probably slightly less important to Motability customers, but important for electric cars anyway, is that the longevity of the batteries look quite promising as well. So what that means is they've tested them, and some of these batteries have gone through sort of 1,000 charge cycles and have lost only, say, 5% of their range. And so 1,000 charge cycles could be something like 3, 4, 500,000 miles. So there's good longevity there as well with the batteries, which is quite important. So that's kind of the next big thing in terms of battery tech, really. The other technology that people do regularly bring up and say, is this coming soon? Is this around the corner? Is hydrogen. So the advantage of hydrogen would be that you could fill up in like 5 or 10 minutes. But at the moment, it really doesn't look like it's anywhere near, if ever. The reasons for that are currently there's about 10 places in the whole of the UK to put hydrogen in a car. So no one's going to buy one if they can't put hydrogen in it. Car manufacturers aren't going to make hydrogen cars if no one's going to buy them. So there's a sort of chicken and egg situation
London
there.
buses use
Yes,
hydrogen,
yeah.
don't
So
they?
I think there's probably a strong use case for commercial usage. There are definitely use cases for hydrogen. The other issue is it's just the energy efficiency. Electric cars are just much more efficient. So if you think the amount of energy that's got to be used, capturing the hydrogen, compressing it, transporting it, but just put that energy into an electric car battery and it will go further.
Why can't you make a car out of solar panels?
That's a good question. I
Looks like cool.
don't know.
Could you slap a solar panel on it, or make the whole body out of a solar panel?
I think someone with more engineering nous than me would have to answer that.
And in this country, is there enough sun to power it all the time?
I got this ton. from Lancashire, so
There are some cars
global warming,
that have,
you know.
you can pay. It's usually an optional extra, but you can have a solar panel in the roof. That,
Can
but
you?
generally, it doesn't add that much. It doesn't actually add that much range.
Thought I was just about to be a multi-millionaire then.
I mean, for people that are sort of holding their breath for hydrogen, my personal opinion, and I may well be proved wrong by the car industry, is I wouldn't hold your breath on the whole hydrogen fuel cell thing. So lastly, that kind of brings me to the charging side of things, whether there's any developments in that landscape. Aside from the fact that chargers are getting faster, which is kind of good. There's a few other things in the works. There's a Chinese brand called NIO. They produce electric cars. They have battery swapping stations in several countries. They're looking to move to the UK soon and are planning to bring their battery swapping stations with them. So effectively, you drive in, and it literally just unbolts the battery from the bottom of the car, puts a new one in, and you drive off. And that's done in under 5 minutes.
It's like Formula One.
Yeah, it's pretty
That
clever.
is
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it is pretty clever. So yeah, that whole process happens in under 5 minutes, and it's quite clever because you can say you actually pay for a smaller battery in the car. You could, if you was planning a really long journey, you could pay to upgrade briefly to one of their larger batteries so that you can use that for the week if you're doing a long journey. Next time you swap, you can downgrade back to your regular battery, that kind of thing.
That's amazing.
I mean, again, that is a specific tech that's not going to work on every car currently because it always has to be built into the car, but it's just interesting that manufacturers are looking at other ways around the charging problem. We've also seen wireless charging being trialled in lots of places. Even Nottingham had a trial where they used black cabs. The parking, I don't know, you call it like a taxi rank, I guess.
Yeah.
They had sort of wireless charging there so that when taxis were waiting, they were just getting a bit of a
That's
top
so
up,
cool.
which is a cool idea. And it's being trialled in lots of places. So again, we'll see how likely that is to come to fruition. But there's obviously bonuses there in terms of people not having to plug in cables, which is a real difficulty for some of the disabled community.
Well, totally. My friend came to visit me, my first friend came to visit me up in Lancashire, and he pulled up in a Tesla. We don't get many Teslas around where I live. But we went for a walk, and I was in my power chair, and he turned to me and he went, "Do you get range anxiety?" And I went, "What? Rage?" He went, No, range anxiety. And we had a conversation about my power chair and his Tesla about range anxiety. So I felt like part of the
EV
group.
crowd.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it, really. I mean, the other thing, but this is much further down the line, is there's been some prototypes of car chargers that are sort of autonomous, so they sort of almost like a robotic arm that finds the charge port and plugs in. So that's really cool from an accessibility standpoint if there's some more research into that space. And if you think long term, once cars are autonomous, which is quite a long way away, but you can imagine a space where you get home and your car just goes off and charges itself somewhere, which would be, if you can't charge at home, that's a potential solution some way in the future.
Technology's already there because you can have them to carry your wheelchair in. There are arms that are in the roof box, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
Yes,
it's
quite
not
cool, those.
too out of the realms of possibilities.
Absolutely. It's me done.
As always, mind.
Mind blown? That's for the captions.
Yeah. And that's it for this episode of the Motability Lifestyle Pod. Thanks to our producer Charlotte Mason at Insanity Studio, Saffron Mirza and Abby Sandler, and our editorial assistant Lucy Rhodes at Wonderly.
If you liked this episode, click follow or subscribe. Tell all your friends and please leave a review and rating if you're listening, or like and comment if you're watching. If you want to tell us what you thought or if there's something you'd like to hear, come and say hello on Instagram at Motability_lifestyle_mag. And for some behind the scenes content, follow us on TikTok at MotLifestyleMag. You can also watch the full video on YouTube with captions and BSL. You can find us on at MotabilityLifestyleMagazine. Finally, if you want more information about the Motability scheme, go to motability.co.uk. Or if you want to learn more about the Motability Foundation, visit motabilityfoundation.org.uk. And that's it. I'm Sophie Marie Odom.
And I'm Samantha Rank.
See you next time.
Ta-ra!